How bad is the NFC East? 8 weeks into the season, the NFC East only has 8 wins out of a possible 30 games played. That's ridiculous. Chris and I will explain to you why this is the worst division ever in the NFL. Also, how about 2 NFL Hall of Famers deciding to live together in a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer's house? I'm going to tell you who it is and why I think this is a good idea. And lastly, one of the saddest things that happened this weekend in sports was in the UFC. I'm going to tell you who it involved and why it's got me so upset. You found the show that helps you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. Let's start the show.
You're tuned into the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Hey, it's a Thursday night. You're on YouTube. We're talking about everything in the world of sports. We've got Zach, Chris, me, and you. Let's get it started right now with the biggest stories going on in the world of sports. And I'm going to start it in one place. It's in the NFL, Baltimore, where it came down to the last play of the game for the Ravens, but it wasn't enough as the Steelers escape with a 28-24 victory. Zach will be happy about that one. And they improved their record to 7-0, the last undefeated team in the NFL. Yeah, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, not my New England Patriots. How about a team that's just as good as the Steelers, but nobody's talking about them? I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks. They move to 6-1 after they take care of San Francisco at home, 37-27, led by Russell Wilson and 4 touchdowns. I think they're looking great. Chris and I will talk about that. With 2 minutes left to go in the game, how does Anthony Lynn, the head coach of the Los Angeles Bolts, blow and collapse with a 6-point lead in Denver? Drew Luck takes Denver on a 14-play, 81-yard drive, ending with a touchdown pass to rookie wide receiver KJ Hamler out of Penn State, and hands the Bolts their 5th defeat on the season. They're going in the wrong way. This was an absolute collapse that I couldn't actually believe I was watching. A definite downer in the NFL. Let's turn to a positive in the NFL. It's Tua time in Miami. Wow, Fins fans are going ecstatic. Fitzpatrick, he was a good plug to get to the next quarterback, but now they've inserted Tua. They're rolling. How about the Fish taking down the Rams 28-17? Tua only goes 12 for 22, 93 yards and 1 touchdown. The real story in this game, sadly for Fish, though, isn't Tua Tagovailoa and getting his first NFL win, his first NFL touchdown. It's actually the Rams with 4 turnovers handing the game to the Fish in Miami. 2 interceptions by Jared Goff, 2 lost fumbles. If I'm Sean McVay, you got to tighten that up. They're still 5-2 on the season, but not a good showing against the Fish. Vikings get it done at Lambeau over Green Bay, 28-22, behind 3 touchdowns from Dalvin Cook, 161 yards rushing. I said, if this kid stays healthy, he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. He showed me that I was right. Bills, Saints, Colts, Raiders, and Eagles all had big wins on Sunday, especially the Eagles against Dallas. At the link, somebody had to win. Philadelphia came out on top, playing in the worst division in the NFL. Chris and I will get to that. How about college football news? If you're Jim Harbaugh and you're at home and you're favored by 21 and you're playing an in-state rival, how can you lose? There is no answer for that. But somehow, at $7.5 million a year, Jim Harbaugh found a way to lose the game to Michigan State. Low energy, unorganized on defense. Offense was sporadic, couldn't get going after a week where they looked awesome against Minnesota. They looked like they couldn't get one foot in front of the other offensively. And their secondary has some major questions in Ann Arbor. Head coach Mel Tucker for Michigan State outcoached the $8 million man. Chris and I will talk about that. Here's a great question for all of you out there who's college football fans. Who is the number 1 team in the country? If it's me right now, I'm taking Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama. I'm putting them into a bag. I'm reaching out a name, and I don't want to hear any beef about it. Whoever comes out, that's number 1. Chris has a definite number 1, and he's got a reason for why he's got them number 1. Bama goes to shut out Mississippi State 41-0. How about the Buckeyes getting a huge Halloween victory at Penn State, who was ranked 18th. Now they've dropped out of the polls. Ohio State gets it done on the road, 38-25. Clemson gets a come-from-behind victory against a very stout Boston College team at home, 34-28, with a backup quarterback who is 6'5" and 250 pounds. He'll be starting against Notre Dame. I think Clemson looked good. You got to win games like that and be able to show that you can come back if you're going to play at a championship level. They did exactly that. How about Tom Herman taking his seat only for a minute off of the hot fires, getting a big win against number 6 Oklahoma State. Texas gets it done in the upset, 41-34 in overtime. Number 7. Who is it? Who's number 7 in college football? Can Luke Fickell get a confetti blast? Can Luke Fickell get some champagne at his table? He has got Cincinnati at ranked number 7 in the country, taking down Memphis. Memphis has a stout offense and a fairly good defense. How about 49-10 Cincinnati drubbing Memphis? They go to 5-0 on the season. I think Cincinnati needs a little more credit than what we've given them so far this year. Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Boise State get big wins. Talking about giving some teams some credit, if I said who's the number 20 ranked team in the country, would you know who it is? I don't think so. It's Coastal Carolina. They're 6-0. Teams that really disappointed me over the weekend, UNC gets a big loss. Kansas State goes on the road to West Virginia and lays a gigantic egg. And one of the most disappointing things about college football this last weekend, how about LSU completely falling apart? All those teams go down. LSU is 2-3 after getting blown out by Auburn, 48-10. How does that happen when you had such a dominant defense, a dominant offense, and a head coach that seemed to pull it all together? I know LSU fans are going to be screaming out, man, we lost so much in the draft. You can't lose to Auburn by 30 points. Can't happen. Almost 40 points. Here's the thing that's concerning me about LSU right now. They brought in Bo Pelini for his defense. They're 91st overall in defense, giving up over 478 yards a game. I'm already starting to smell the embers underneath Bo Pelini's butt because he's on the hot seat right now. Tons of huge ranked matchups in college football this weekend. How about one that I really like? BYU goes on the road to take on Boise State. They're both ranked. Michigan and Indiana ranked. Who cares? I don't even want to talk about that one. One that I am watching out for, the Pac-12 gets started up this weekend. Arizona State and the Fighting Herminators go to USC to take on Clay Helton and his USC Trojans. Big game coming out of Jacksonville. Florida, number 8 in the country, goes to Jacksonville to take on number 5 Georgia. Number 1 Clemson taking on Notre Dame. Number 4 at Touchdown Jesus. No Trevor Lawrence in that game. I still think it's going to be competitive and close. And talking about giving some love to some people, how about number 25 Liberty at 6-0? Saturday, they take their show on the road at high noon to play Virginia Tech. I think that's going to be a competitive game. NBA news, Philadelphia 76ers named former GM for the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, as their team president. Somehow he decided to extend the contract of current GM Elton Brand. Chris will have to explain this to me because I can't figure it out. NBA also claims that if they don't start in December, they could possibly lose $1 billion with a January start. Adam Silver came out this week and said league revenues were down 10% last year due to the COVID-19. That means that the NBA lost 10% of $8.3 billion, which they claim is their revenues for last year. That's still a lot of money. I'm not in favor of them starting in December. We need a little bit of time off to build up the interest and get me caring again. Plus, I don't want to be watching NBA games while I'm watching bowl games. I know that's happened normally, but it's just too tight of a window. MLB news, Yankees. A team I love to talk about. After injured star hitter Giancarlo Stanton opts in for the remainder of his 7-year, $218 million contract. 76 at-bats last year, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, and he batted .250, and he's opting in. The Yankees can't do anything about it. This is another case of the Yankees paying a lot of money to guys that aren't going to be around as long as the contract will, and it's going to cost them, I think, in the end. Lastly, MMA news, Conor McGregor signs to fight January 23rd, Diamond Dustin Poirier. I'm excited about that fight. How about all the competitiveness right now at the 155? Justin Gaethje, Conor, Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, Paul Felder. That division is completely stacked. That's going to be the first big fight of the year coming up in 2021, which we're all hoping is going to be better than 2020. And having said that, that's everything that's going on in the world of sports. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ron. I'm doing really, really good. I'm still kind of sad because we lost one of the greatest fighters of all time to quit MMA last week, man. I mean, Khabib, man, he went out one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and, there's already talk out there from UFC President Dana White that he's not relinquishing him at 155 as the champion, even though Khabib said he's not going to fight, hoping that maybe he can lure him back. I mean, Khabib's a big draw. And why not? The guy's 29-0. He never lost. He's just a machine. And he took on all the best fighters. The only one that he didn't take on and actually fight was Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
But having seen what he did to Justin Gaethje, I don't know that my interest level is really that high in seeing him fight that fight ever take place.
Well, really not me either. I mean, what I love about Khabib is that he's the fighter that wants to take on the best. He wants to fight the best.
Uh-huh.
At the time, they are the best at the top of their game.
Right.
And so, with that, I mean, it's just much respect with that guy.
Are you, trying to get a date going with Zach here with the Pittsburgh hat? Why are you rocking a Pittsburgh hat?
Well, I mean, Ron, we're going to get into that Mike Thomas story a little bit later.
Is it because they're 7-0?
No, it's not because they're 7-0. I mean, I can care less about Pittsburgh.
How about my New England Patriots? How about my Patriots? We are in the running for Trevor. If we just tank a little harder, I think we throw Brian Hoyer out there.
Yeah.
And we put Bill Belichick at wide receiver or running back, and it's just student body right for 4 quarters. We'll give the Jets 2 wins. I'm willing to do that.
You're willing to give the Jets?
Yeah, I'm willing to do that if it helps us.
I don't know who's in a better position, you or the Cowboys.
Oh, sadly, I never thought I would hate to say if we played the Cowboys, we'd probably beat them because I don't want to win this year. I mean, look, one down year in 20 seasons, yeah. I can handle that. Let's get back to the UFC. Saturday night, Uriah Hall, 4th round knockout of one of the best fighters in UFC history. Definitely one of the best competitors, one of the best sportsmen, one of the best ambassadors for UFC. I'm talking about Anderson Silva gets knocked out in the 4th round. After the fight, Dana White pretty much came out and said, this guy's got to stop fighting. But what I like about the former middleweight champ is he holds the record for the most consecutive title defenses, the longest reign of anybody in any weight division at 2,250 days. And he was, at the time of his prime, most people in UFC circles considered him to be one of the best pound for pound, if not the best pound for pound fighter of all time. But this is what makes me sad, is what I saw on Saturday night. Guys staying around too long. And kids that didn't see him in his prime are going to see a watered down, heavily watered down version of Anderson Silva, who was one of the greats, I thought. And now, it makes me think about Cowboy Cerrone. It makes me think about Frank Mir. And now I'm going to add Anderson Silva. Guys that were awesome in their bracket, their weight bracket, and dominant in their prime. But they stay around too long. They slow down. They gain a little bit of weight. They lose a little bit of the edge. They lose a little bit of the energy, a little bit of the passion. And they got a kid that's coming up that's faster, younger, wants it, hasn't tasted it yet, has the desire. And then we end up seeing a very lackluster performance. And frankly, some of these guys getting beat up way too long in the tooth. Yeah,
I mean, really, Anderson Silva to me was kind of like, he was my introduction to MMA. I mean, everybody knew Anderson the Spider Silva. Everybody knew that guy.
Right.
And to me, it kind of with that kind of compares with me with boxing with Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. kind of basically, introduced me into boxing. Mm-hmm. And, Roy Jones was this guy. He was the guy that was so dominant in his weight class. And, the fact that he was so dominant, but then he continued to box. And, I kind of see that same similarity with Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Where, he's continuing, after his prime when
way after.
Really right now he should probably be somebody's trainer.
Right.
Rather than
still be a positive influence in the game. I think about Willie Mays
Yeah.
dropping in 1969. He's dropping outfield passes.
Right.
I think about Bernard Hopkins getting knocked literally out of the ring
Yeah.
in a fight on a Saturday night over in a European country that nobody even probably saw.
Yeah.
Or, George Foreman, maybe Mike Tyson staying around too long. It just bothers me. It's really sad to see guys, because you love them. You love
really
them
do.
because of the passion for the game, but the passion for the game keeps them in the game too long.
Right.
And then it diminishes. Like I said, the guys coming up today that are just getting into MMA, they don't know about. They're not going to go back on YouTube and watch how dominant Anderson Silva was. I think the real starting point for his demise was the back-to-back losses to Chris Weidman.
Right.
The first time, the second round, he's goofing around and he gets caught with the left, and he was out before he hit the ground.
Right.
The broken leg
Yeah.
didn't help. He never came back from that. The second loss to Chris Weidman back-to-back. He's lost 8 of his last 9 fights.
Wow.
8 of his last 9 fights. Do you ever want to hear that from a champion? That's kind of like if Tom Brady had retired and the last pass that young Patriots fans ever saw him throw at Foxborough was an interception to Logan from Tennessee last year, which was a pick 6. You don't want it to go out. You don't want him to go out that way. You want to go out on top.
Right.
Like Tony Gwynn went out on top.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys don't. They stay around too long, and then it makes me feel sad. I don't want to see Anderson Silva getting rocked. Uriah Hall's a good fighter, but he's not even ranked.
Yeah.
Not even ranked. 4th round, all over. And really, if you saw the fight, I thought Uriah Hall was kind of carrying him for about 2.5 rounds. He could have put him to sleep, I think, in the second round, but didn't. And I don't know if that was a courtesy thing. I'm not saying it was. I just don't like to see these guys that we grow up with, we look at, we idolize. They introduce us to the sport when we're young. They stay around too long, and then they end up getting drilled. And it's just a watered-down version of greatness.
Yeah, it really is, and it's sad to see that. And personally, me, if I was Dana, this has to be it.
Yeah.
We can't have this anymore because I don't want to see a legend diminish just
Right.
that bad.
And he could get caught with something and really
Yeah.
get hurt at this point.
Right.
It's getting to a point where you can't defend yourself.
Right.
They got to start thinking about that. Let's move on to the NFL. Big weekend behind us. None bigger than what happened for Zach's Pittsburgh Steelers going on the road to Baltimore. I know, he's got a big grin. Hey, it's going to be a big fall when he goes down. We're a long way from the Super Bowl, pal. I'm telling you, we're a long way from the Super Bowl.
I ain't cashing anything in yet. I'm just enjoying it.
I would be enjoying it too, but trust me, for being a Patriot fan going undefeated all the way until the 4th quarter of the last game, I don't want to hear it. What I do want to talk about, Chris and I are going to get into the worst division, not only in the NFL, ever. Worst division in the NFL ever. And I have to be talking about one area. It's the hated NFC East. Washington, Dallas, Philly,
New York.
and the Giants and the G-Men. And last night, Philly played Dallas, so somebody had to win. I said at the top of the show, the NFC East has played 30 games so far, and they have 8 victories. And the only reason they have those 8 is because they had to play each other at some point. That's how bad it is. But I have so many more stats. How about this? All the divisions in football, they all have point differentials, every single team. So if you won in week 1 30-7, your point differential would be plus 27. Okay? How about these numbers for the NFC East? They're the only division in football where all the teams in that division have a negative points differential. They're stopping camp on that one for a while. That's how bad this division is. Philly, who's leading the division with a losing record, minus 19. Washington, minus 32. Dallas, minus 81. I'm going to tell you why that's significant in a second. The Giants, minus 31, and they're playing the Buccaneers tonight, so that's probably an L. Dallas has given up 81 points, negative 81 on points differential. How significant is that? There's only one team in the NFL that has a worse point differential than the Dallas Cowboys. Who is it? You guys know? The Jets. It has to be the Jets, who haven't won any games.
Yeah, makes sense.
The Jets' point differential is negative 144.
Whoa.
The only team that's next to them is Dallas at -81. This is inexplicable to me, and I have some good reasons why I'm just going to camp on Dallas. Before all the Dallas fans start mobbing the email at thefirstroundrd@gmail.com and telling me, but wait a minute, Dak's out, you were 1-3 with Dak. 1 win, 3 losses with Dak. So just hit the pause button and take a couple cups of decaf before you start blowing up the Gmail account about, well, Dak's out and Dak's hurt. I don't want to hear it. You sucked when you had Dak. But let's just go beyond that. Let's go beyond the fact that you're playing in a terrible division and should have a winning record. Let's go beyond the fact that you have the second greatest points differential, the worst in the league, only to the Jets. Let's go beyond that. How about this? What happened in the offseason with your boy who runs every facet of that team, Jerry Jones? Well, I'll tell you what he did. He went out and signed Amari Cooper because he absolutely had to do that. He gave him a $100 million contract for 5 years. The only problem with that is Amari Cooper at $20 million a year has only been targeted 77 times. He's averaging a career low 10.9 yards per catch, and he only has 54 receptions. Could that be a reason why you guys are terrible? How about this? You have a primetime game on Sunday Night Football. You're playing a division team in the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in a pretty much a must-win game scenario to make it to the playoffs, which nobody should be talking about for anybody in this division. Amari Cooper at $100 million was targeted 5 times, 1 catch for 5 yards. Let it soak in, Dallas fans. 1 catch for 5 yards, and for that he got paid $1.25 million for last night's game at $20 million a year. How about Zeke? We're 8 games into it. He's making $90 million over 6 years. Another big off-season, didn't have to do it, push and sign to get your premier players to build this team towards a Super Bowl. How about 521 yards rushing through 8 games on 132 carries? The longest rush of the year for Zeke, Chris.
I think it was, what was that, 30? It was like a 30-yard run.
How about 24 yards? How many touchdowns? If I said to you, which does Ezekiel Elliott halfway through the season have more? More fumbles or more touchdowns? What would you say?
I said more fumbles.
He's got 5 touchdowns and 4 fumbles at $90 million contract. 5 touchdowns for Ezekiel Elliott, less than 600 yards rushing, and 4 fumbles. It's not just Dak not being there. It's Mike McCarthy not targeting their number 1 wide receiver. It's Zeke not performing. He signed that contract, and I think he checked out.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I think he checked out. I think he got $90 million, and he was like, that's it. I mean, do you see him fighting through yards after carry? He's lower than 30 in the NFL. Yards after the first initial hit. Yeah, yards after contact.
Yeah, well, I think this year, I think he has checked out this year because, I mean, he has no sustainable quarterback to actually get those wide receivers the ball.
He had Dak for the first 4 games.
I mean, you had Dak for the first 4 games, but when you look at that Dallas team, really, it was more of a defensive problems with what they were having.
Okay,
I mean, they couldn't stop anybody.
They have one of the best offensive line, top 5 offensive line we talked
Right.
about in our pregame show. Top 5 offensive line in the NFL.
Right.
Halfway through the season, he's got 521 yards and 4 fumbles and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to think now with Dak going without losing Andy Dalton now semi.
But he was going to be an awesome backup.
Hey, I mean
that's what I heard from all the Dallas fans. Oh man, did you see who we signed today? Andy
No,
Dalton.
That's who they signed. But I mean, really,
0 playoff wins, by the way.
Yeah, but when you take a quarterback away that's capable of actually passing the ball to their receivers, I mean, to get CeeDee Lamb or to get to Amari Cooper or
how many times was CeeDee Lamb targeted last night?
I mean, CeeDee Lamb was targeted, I think, like 4 or 5 times, and he had like a 19-yard reverse run.
How can it be this bad?
Well, I mean, it's bad because again, you have no functioning quarterback whatsoever.
But they were losing with Dak. It's Jerry. Jerry's the reason. Jerry gets his hands in everything, and it gets filled up.
Well, it's Jerry, but again, it also again falls on the defense. They have to find some type of way to get this defense sold up. It's not going to happen this year, but they have to do something next year. They have to get sold up.
At the beginning of the season, the odds come out to win the Super Bowl, and all the Dallas fans were like, "Oh, the division is a cakewalk. We're going to have a first-round bye. We got Amari signed, Zeke, Dak's on a 1-year franchise tag. We're set for the year." They were 16 to 1 odds. Dallas was 16 to 1 odds at the beginning of the season. We're halfway through the season now. Guess what they are listed as of today?
What is that?
150 to 1.
Yeah.
16 to 1, 150 to 1. But Dallas, they're just one cog, one screw in this dysfunctional machine of the NFC East. Let's talk about Philly. Talking about contracts. They went out and gave Carson Wentz a 4-year contract at $128 million, knowing that he was injury prone, and I felt really had not lived up to the pre-draft hype. Nope. Did not win the Super Bowl for them.
Nope.
Is injury prone.
Yep.
And runs a lot, and also makes, I think, a lot of questionable decisions. His QBR rating right now, Carson Wentz at $129 million over 4 years, is 50.3. Has he thrown more interceptions, touchdowns, or the same amount, Chris?
This year, I'm going to say he probably thrown the same amount.
You're absolutely right. 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 58% completion rate for your $128 million guy. His career record is 35-28, and since 2017, his TD percentage has gone down every single year for 4 years.
Yep.
That's your Carson Wentz at $128 million. It's unbelievable. He lost 8 weeks playing in 2015. He lost 2 more in 2016. He lost 4 more in 2017. You always tell me the greatest is availability.
Yeah, the greatest ability is availability.
The greatest ability is your availability.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is the reason why Philly is going nowhere. Now, Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Jackson, their wide receiver speed burner on the outside who was supposed to provide help, was gone almost all of last season. He's been gone most of this season. That's a big problem. They brought in Jalen Reagor, the rookie out of TCU. I think he only got targeted 5 or 6 times last night. You got to go to him more. And who's your running back right now? I don't know. Their defense is marginal, but they are a long way. Talk about a team that was just a couple years removed from the Super Bowl, like the Rams.
Yeah.
And now look at them. It's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, really, at this point, I'm looking to actually put Jalen Hurts in at quarterback right now. I can't really see the purpose of having him in the game right now. I mean, you have Jalen Hurts sitting right there.
$128 million. You can't have a $128 million guy riding the bench.
Hey, you look at it. You have to look to trade him. You have to look towards the future.
Well, who's going to pick that up?
I don't know. Somebody's going to be desperate for a quarterback.
Not at $128 million when your record is when he's got basically a 500 record. He's 1 for 1 on touchdowns to interceptions, and he misses a lot of games because he's hurt. I mean, who's in the market for that? Where do I sign up for that guy?
I mean, no, I don't think the Cowboys. But hey, man, if somebody could keep picking up Mike Glenn and giving him $20 million contracts per year, somebody will pick him up.
I don't know. That was another crazy one. Let's go on to the Giants. I think the Giants' biggest concern, first of all, is at GM with Dave Gettleman. I mean, is he still there? Can you just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if Dave Gettleman is still the GM, Zach? Just give me a thumbs up or just look on your phone real quick. But I'm going to look. Here's the thing. Daniel Jones was the 6th overall pick. That was a massive reach. You and I have talked about that a lot in 2019. Right now, NFL rankings. In overall yards, Dave Gettleman is still there. Zach's giving me the thumbs up. In overall yards per game, total yards on the season, he's 26th in the NFL. QBR rating, he's 21st. Touchdowns, he's got 5 touchdowns on the year. Daniel Jones, the 6th overall pick in 2019 for the Giants, has 5 touchdowns this year. 5 in 8 games. They're 1-6. The leader of the team that they drafted at number 6 has got them, and I don't want to hear, oh, it's because of Saquon Barkley. They've made a ton of other mistakes. They went out and gave left tackle Nate Solder, he left New England, $62 million for 4 years. Let's see how that worked out. Nate Solder, $60+ million over 4 years. Oh, by the way, in 2020 when it really matters, he's 4th string right now on their depth chart. I mean, how's that working out?
But Ron, I mean,
you got to go get some talent, man.
Come on, man. Now, to the G-Man's defense, name me a wide receiver on their team.
Sterling Shepard.
Okay.
He's a B- level guy.
And who? I mean,
but that's my point. Why did you go reach for Daniel Jones at 6 when you needed linebacker help? You had a Swiss cheese secondary led by Janoris Jenkins, who's with the Saints now. I mean, he was MIA and on a milk carton half the time. They had a Swiss cheese secondary that was terrible. You and I watched a game where the Rams, Todd Gurley caught just a swing pass out of the backfield and ran through their whole defense, goes 63 yards for a touchdown, virtually untouched last year. How's that happen?
Yeah, it's happened, but I mean, really, when it comes down to the Giants, I mean, they really haven't been the same. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have picked up this kid Daniel Jones at 6.
No, it's a complete reach.
I mean, because to me, I mean, you're supposed to pick the best player
available
at the time.
Right.
And to me, this guy was a 3rd or 4th round draft pick.
I would say 2nd or 3rd round guy coming out of Duke. I mean, there was a lot of hype around him. But you know what happens closer to the draft? There's a lot of smoke and mirrors and hype because you're trying to fake everybody else out. You don't want anybody knowing what you're doing. Dave Gettleman, if I'm a G-Man fan, he's got to go. I feel bad for their new coach, Joe Judge.
Yeah.
Also a Belichick disciple, but he's got nothing to work with. It's like they handed him a bowl of hot water and said, make chicken soup. I mean, you got Daniel Jones there, who's an unproven. You're overpaying guys for the last couple of years like Janoris Jenkins, like Eli Apple, who's an absolute disaster in the secondary. You're overpaying guys like Nate Solder, who's a 4th stringer making $62 million over 4 years. You're reaching on picks like Daniel Jones. That's why the NFC East is the way they are. And we haven't even gotten to the team from Washington yet. The best thing about the team from Washington is that their head coach has beat cancer. Honestly, that's the best thing about them right now. You got a guy back there playing quarterback on a peg leg whose arm looks like a rubber band. You got rid of your best offensive player at running back.
You had they had Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson was their best offensive.
Darius guys.
Then you lose your number 1 tight end. He goes to play for San Francisco.
Yeah, Jordan Reed. Yeah.
Right, Jordan Reed, former Gator football player. I don't even know where to start with Washington. I mean, like, the whole division is like light years away from ever being competitive. And unfortunately, this is the NFL. Somebody has to win this division. Somebody's going to win this division with a losing record, possibly get a 1st round bye because they're the division winners. Can you believe this? I mean, I can't even believe how bad it is.
Yeah, I personally think that whoever wins this division automatically
they're just a sacrificial lamb. You don't even get to play in the playoffs. We're going to give you the title, but you're out.
Whoever wins this division should just play the wild card. So we go ahead and eliminate them and keep it moving.
Yeah, just eliminate them and keep it moving. I'm down with that.
There's only one team that gets a bye this year. Only one team from each division gets a bye this year. They have an extra team in playoffs now.
Let's move on to something positive. Positive things I saw around the NFL this last weekend. How about Joe Burrow going for 249, 2 touchdowns, and a big win at home over Tennessee? Yeah. A winning team, a tough defense. Mike Vrabel teaches defense. I think Joe Burrow's looking good. Other big positive coming out of NFL this weekend, I thought Seattle, they're 6-1 point differential. Hey, you want to talk about point differentials? Go look at the NFC West. The 4 teams in that division, you want to be coaching in a tough division?
Yeah.
I'll tell you where the tough division is. It's tighter than a violin string over in the NFC West. Every single team in the NFC West point differential is plus some 40 or higher. I think the lowest one is San Francisco at a plus 41. Everybody has a plus next to their name in point differential. Seattle's 6-1. I think they're doing great this year. Those are my big positives coming away from the NFL this weekend. What do you got?
I mean, again, it's with Seattle. Seattle is my positive. I mean, I just read something crazy about Russell Wilson. This guy says he spends $1 million a year for his body. This guy says he has 2 hyperbaric chambers.
Those work. Those work. Tim Tebow had one of those.
Yeah, he has 2 hyperbaric chambers. He has 2 chefs. He has a physical therapist.
And he's got Sierra.
Yeah, and he has Sierra. Yeah, exactly.
It's not fair.
Exactly.
It's just not fair, man.
And he's got DK Metcalf.
And
That
we're
he's
about to get to
been
that point,
a
too.
beast.
DK
Yeah.
Metcalf has been a beast. You're right. Moving on to our last.
Before
Oh.
One more thing though, but just
Can't hear you. The
Oh,
audio.
I'll scream.
Okay.
Your Patriots could have picked up DK Metcalf. and
Shut up.
got-
That's it. You're on mute for the rest of.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
'Kay.
All right.
Other NFL news, I talked about 2 future Hall of Famers starting to shack up together in a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer's house.
Right.
It's Tom Brady and Antonio Brown, now teammates, now roommates. Tom had him move in, which I think is a great move.
Yes.
But I don't know about if I think the actual great move in the whole thing is him moving into Tom's house. That's a better move than Tampa actually picking up Antonio, because it's literally 50-50 if he's going to go mentally AWOL at some point this year. And you know what's crazy is when last year when he was on the free agent market after the Patriots let him go, Bruce Arians, the head coach in Tampa, was asked several times about picking him up. He said, no way. He's not on our radar. We're not picking him up. We have zero interest. All of a sudden he comes free now. And one, Tom Brady had nothing to do with this, according to Bruce Arians. And we think that he's mentally stable now, which there's no proof of at all. And he's ready to go. And this is a great move. We're bringing him in. You want to talk about bipolar?
That was a bipolar move, but it's a great pickup for Tampa. I mean, you have, Tampa has a plethora of receivers, but you had Chris Godwin, who has been week to week, this whole season.
Right.
And so, now you have Antonio Brown that could fill that slot. But you're talking about offensive firepower now. With what Tampa has right now, oh my God.
The best ability is availability. If he's not there, it's nothing. He's got to get his head in the game and keep it straight and not go AWOL mentally.
But this is the thing, though. Everybody knows, once Antonio Brown gets into the game, and he's probably the one, once he's focused on the game.
When was the last time Antonio Brown was focused? Like 6 years ago back in Pittsburgh.
When he's focused on playing the game, this guy is possibly the best receiver in the game.
He is, but
And
we haven't seen that for 5 years.
But again, we're here with Tom. When you go back to the whole before that whole situation happened with the young lady coming from when he was in I guess wherever she came from, the young lady before that issue happened. Once he was there with Bill Belichick, did you really hear anything prior to that?
Are you talking about Bridget Moynihan and his son, or the kid they had with them?
No.
Okay, well,
no.
anyway, yeah. So he got with Belichick, and they got straightened out.
Right. So it's like, but during that time, once he got into camp, got focused before all of this other stuff happened, did you really hear if any issues with AB?
Yeah.
What issues did you hear with AB with the Patriots once?
Wait,
once
the
he
Patriots.
I'm saying once he got with the Patriots
the
with
Patriots
Brady.
clean up guys like Randy Moss. They clean up guys like Corey Dillon. They clean up guys like AB. What was he doing just weeks before he was with the Raiders? I don't like my helmet. I don't like the play calling. The GM is an expletive. That was just weeks before he got there.
Weeks before, but again, you're talking about AB being focused on football.
No, he's a head case.
The guy was focused. Once he got to the Patriots,
For 1 week he was focused against the Fish.
He was focused on football, and once he gets
until he
gets
proves
back
to
on the
me he's a
field,
positive, he's a negative. And other negative things that I took away from this weekend in the NFL. You like that segue?
right. I think now the Bucks are really, to me, it puts them ahead of the Saints to me.
Well, we'll see. Well, the Saints, yeah, in their division, but in the NFL, I don't know. I can name 5 teams off the top of my head that are better than them right now. I still think Seattle's better. I still think Green Bay is better. I still think Pittsburgh's better. Kansas City is better. So there's a
Green Bay.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is better.
I think they got didn't Green Bay get washed?
Wait,
exactly.
Wait a minute. They got washed.
They got
yesterday.
washed. They got washed by the Bucks. And then they get turned around and got
that was one game, bro.
But they
Okay.
made Aaron Rodgers look like pedestrian.
Okay.
And that was their defense.
Right.
That was
Every
Tampa's
team
defense
has
that you
down
keep
games.
saying.
Every team.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Negatives from the weekend in the NFL. Let's
Here we
take
go.
negatives from the weekend in the NFL. I'm going to start with the Chargers, 2-5. They're 1-3 on the road. I think Anthony Lynn's got a lot to fix. As much as I like their rookie quarterback, You can't be 2-5 this far into the Anthony Lynn regime. Also, things that were negative that I took away from this weekend in the NFL: the Rams, 4 turnovers, 131 yards rushing, and 2 fumbles. They basically gave the game to the Fish. Again, they're 5-3, and Sean McVay's got them going in the right direction. But that effort, 4 turnovers, just cost you the whole game. What were the biggest negative takeaways that you had from the NFL this weekend, Chris?
The biggest negative takeaway that I've had for the weekend really was just Dallas just looked like
What they are.
I was like, oh my gosh, like an NFL team can't be that bad.
They can.
Like literally, you cannot be that bad.
I know. How could Jerry Jones run $1 billion empire and not even be able to be smart enough to walk away and let people do their jobs? Hire competent people and let them do their jobs. That's why we have 6 rings, because Robert Kraft hires competent people and lets them do their job.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I was gonna throw out the Patriots there too, because Cam Newton. I don't know what's going on with Cam. Like
I told you
like
at the beginning of the season,
just,
Cam is a stopgap measure, and that's it. And he's not the answer. The answer for us, if the question is how many subscribers do we have, is over 1,600. We want to thank every single one of you out there for joining us here in the First Round family. Our numbers have been going up. I think the quality of the show has been going up, so we appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button right now. Become a part of the family if you haven't already. If you've missed any part of this show or others, you can check us out on YouTube in our archive video section. Also, while you're at it, go all the way over to the far left-hand or right-hand side of the screen. Hit the notifications. YouTube will alert you every single week when we post new material, which we do. Good way to get a hold of the show with questions and answers, which I didn't write down this week but normally do, is you can get us at thefirstrroundrd@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at thefirstround and the number 1. And right below here, the subscription button on the screen right here. You can leave comments in the box down there. We appreciate a lot of those. It's been kind of bipolar with the comments lately. We'll get like 20 or 30 comments on our long shows, and then the short shows we don't get as many comments. But there was a lot of cool ones for the last couple weeks. We appreciate all of those. Let's get into college football, which I love. Pac-12 is back this weekend, but I want to start off with the biggest question concerning college football, and it's got to be, who is number 1 right now, Chris? I'd say at the beginning of the show, you throw Ohio State, you throw Clemson, you throw Alabama into a bag, you pull one out. I'm not going to have an argument with you.
I'm going to go with Alabama. They seem to be the more dominant of those 3 teams right now. I mean, granted, Clemson has destroyed everybody who they played against, but, with Trevor Lawrence being out, it shows that, they can come back down to earth. I mean, Alabama is like they lose a person and it's like next man up.
Yep, it is.
And so, I think Alabama right now.
And Ohio State, Justin Fields in his first game back, 21 for 20. And the one that he dropped, basically, Olive, the wide receiver, got his back extracted from his body and couldn't hold on to it.
Yeah, but we have a larger sample size of the other guys, though.
Yeah, you're right.
State just
but I think we know what we're getting with Ohio State, and if you had said Ohio State, I wouldn't have a beef. I don't even have a number 1 right now.
Yeah,
and I should, but I don't. I think they're all about as equal as you could get. I think there's a couple brackets. There's those 3 teams at the top, and then you've got a whole bunch of other teams. My top 10, I've got Ohio State, Clemson, Ohio, and Bama. Any one of those could be number 1. Then I've got Georgia at 4, Cincinnati at 5, and then 6 through 10, it's Notre Dame, Florida, Texas A&M, BYU, and Oregon. And I've got Oregon in there because of what they did last year, because of Mario Cristobal and my belief in him as a coach. Even though they haven't played a game, Ohio State played 1 game, they were in the top 5. Yeah. Oregon can be in the top 10, even though they haven't played, because you know what you're getting. They're going up against Stanford this week, I believe, and they'll go through them like a buzzsaw, I think. But those are the 2 brackets.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is a lot of this is going to get sorted out this week because we have some monster games that are going to, Notre Dame taking on Clemson. BYU is going up to play Boise State. That'll be a monster game. Florida taking on Georgia. That's going to be a monster game. It's going to help sort out the top 10. And then how about Cincinnati? He's going to go play Houston, who I think is a pretty good team. Yeah. Dana Holgerson he's not a bum. That's going to be a competitive game. big home game for Cincinnati, though. And Luke Fickell, we've got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
They're number 7, and they're undefeated. They had a great season last year. He's building off of that. Whoever heard of Luke Fickell before when he was a defensive guy, either coordinator, interim head coach, ball boy, all the things he did at Ohio State. And now look what he's doing when he's got a program.
Yeah, I mean, I heard him while he was at Ohio State.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying he had a ton of different roles.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you when it comes down to your I agree with you when it comes down to your top 10. I mean, I have Bama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3.
Mm-hmm. Now who do you got at 4?
At 4, I have Georgia at 4, and I have Florida at 5. To be honest with you, I mean, because I think
you got Florida at 5 with 1 loss.
Yeah,
to a top-ranked team on the road over Notre Dame.
Over Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, over Notre Dame. I mean, I have Notre Dame at 6. I don't have a problem with Cincinnati being at 7.
Yeah. BYU.
Huh?
You got BYU in the top 10?
I put them at 10.
Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah, I put them at 10.
Oregon, A&M, Florida,
A&M,
Cincinnati,
yep.
Georgia, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's any of those. I've got Georgia at 4. I got Cincinnati at 5. Notre Dame, Florida, Texas A&M, BYU, and Oregon. They can be slotted anywhere from 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It doesn't matter to me. Biggest disappointments in college football over the weekend. 1, Minnesota, second loss in a row, 45-44 to Maryland. They also lost to Michigan last week. It's not a good start for P.J. Fleck. Michigan losing at home. Jim Harbaugh, the $8 million man. Their secondary, listen, I don't like normally calling out people, but Michigan State's wide receiver, Ricky White, he's a junior wide receiver, 9 receptions, 201 yards, 1 touchdown, completely destroyed Michigan's DB, Vincent Gray. He should have just donated his check to charity because he was getting burnt like Elvis Toast Patterson in the Chargers. Remember that guy? Elvis Toast Patterson got burnt all the time. This guy's burnt like toast. Vincent Gray, the DB from Michigan. Also, big disappointment. How about Mike Leach and the job he's doing at Mississippi State? They come in and they blow out LSU. Since then, on the season, they're 1-4. They don't have an answer at quarterback. Costello's been hurt and ineffective. They lose 41-0 to Alabama. And I know it's Alabama, but you're 83rd in the country in offense, Mike Leach, and you're supposed to be an offensive wizard. Your defense isn't doing much better. And on offense, you're averaging 30 rushing yards per game. Okay,
so Mike Leach, the first thing you have to learn about playing in the SEC, you have to find a running game.
And you need a defense. This is the Big 12.
Yeah, you have to find a running game.
They're averaging 30 yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, because when you're playing in the SEC, most of these guys are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, and they're going to tee up for your quarterback if you drop him back 50, 60 times to pass the ball.
They look absolutely absent-minded and dementia-filled on offense. That's the only way I can describe it. Other big disappointments for me in college football. How about Kansas State at 4-2? They go on the road and get destroyed by West Virginia 37-10. They're 84th in the country in offense. They're 72nd in defense. Not doing good in either of those. Plus, they had a loss at the beginning of the season. To me, that's a big disappointment. I don't know. I'm expecting more out of Kansas State. They've got a big game coming up this weekend. Let's get into the big games. Clemson going on the road to take on Notre Dame. We talked a little bit about that one. Off the radar, I think, for a lot of you guys out there, but you should check it out. It's a late Saturday night game. Number 10, BYU undefeated, goes to Boise State, ranked 21st. I talked about Michigan and Indiana. Yeah, they're both ranked, but literally, like, who cares? I mean, I'd rather watch grass grow than that game. I'm so over Michigan now. They cost me $150. I had them on a money line bet, and they blew everything. Game that I really want to see between a ranked and an unranked in the Pac-12 kickoff that we talked about. Pac-12 starting is right here. Fighting Herminators taking on the embattled Mr. Helton at USC, ranked number 20th. I am super excited for that game. How about 25? The Liberty what? What is the name of the team? The Liberty? Oh, I got you. It's the Flames. The Flames. The Liberty Flames are ranked 25th in the country. It's a high noon showdown. Bring your guns at Virginia Tech. I'm looking forward to that one. Again, my Florida Gators going on the road up to Jacksonville in a neutral site game against Georgia. That's going to be a monster game. Wisconsin-Purdue at Camp Randall. Wisconsin's ranked in the top 10. You say Purdue, the last couple of years. Listen, I think Purdue is for real. This is going to be a tough game. Oklahoma State falls from 6 to 14. They go on the road to play Kansas State. I think that's going to be a dogfight. Pac-12 is back. In the North, I like the Ducks. In the South, I think it's Arizona State, and I think it's USC. One of those teams will come out of there. Let's talk about the Pac-12 a little bit. How hot is the hot seat for Chip Kelly right now?
Okay, if
Third season, 17 losses, 7 wins in his first 2 years.
His flame has went from red to blue to white.
Scalding.
So yeah,
There's not a pH out there that's high enough to like sunscreen him away from it.
Yeah, so the flame is burning. It's hot. It's burning to the bone right now.
And here's the thing: when I was checking out the preseason polls of where everybody in the Pac-10 thought the teams would finish, I was getting UCLA at either 10, 11, or 12 in every single one. They're going to finish 10th, 11th, or 12th. The only other teams that are out there that are going to be possibly that bad, and they're all prognostications. It's not fact. Colorado and Arizona. So my next question is how hot is the seat for Kevin Sumlin at the University of Arizona and the Wildcats?
Kevin Sumlin's seat, I mean, I would say it's that blue flame for Kevin Sumlin.
And I like Kevin Sumlin.
I like him too, but he's an offensive coordinator.
Where was he at before he was at Texas A&M? Was he at Houston?
Houston, yeah.
Yeah. And he turned it around there.
Yeah.
And then I thought he did good at Texas A&M, but geez, man, you got Auburn, you got LSU, and you got Bama in that division.
Yes.
And then he couldn't get over that hump, but he's not making it happen at Arizona. I actually like him. Let's wrap it up with some NBA news. 76ers come out this week and hired Daryl Morey, former GM for the Houston Rockets. He likes to make a lot of deals, but the results aren't there because they haven't won championships. He is going to be the president of the 76ers, who are still staying with the course, I believe, for some reason. I don't know. They also extended the contract for GM Elton Brand. Why is that, Chris?
That's the
you can just leave it at
$10 million
drugs.
Question. I don't know. I mean,
drugs.
This guy has made. I mean, Elton Brand hasn't made a good deal since he's been GM. I'm trying to figure it out.
And
myself.
they extended him. They extended his contract, and you know why? Drugs. Drugs. That's the only thing I can come up with. I think this is one of the most. I think this is just a name grab. I think Daryl Morey is a name out there that people know, and this is a confidence booster to put some butts back in the seats in Philadelphia. But I don't think this is going anywhere. This is like a big, huge budget movie that has absolutely no story and no ending. It's going nowhere. What else is going on in the world of sports, Chris?
Well, in the world of sports, we're gonna. You see, tonight I'm rocking my Pittsburgh hat for my guy Zach over here, but definitely it's a big shout out to my guy Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin has been at Pittsburgh now for how long, Zach? Now probably about 13 years?
Since
2008, yeah.
2007, 2008.
Yeah, so about 12, 13 years. But in that time, he has amassed more wins than any other African-American head coach in NFL history. You know, he just surpassed Tony Dungy, and he's sitting at 140 wins. Good look, coach. I see you guys 7-0. Congratulations.
A couple of years ago, I was questioning whether he should be the coach. They had quarterback controversies. Mason Rudolph, Big Ben's getting too old. Seems like they've rounded the corner, and they're doing great now. We want to thank our support staff, and that's what that music is telling me. The man on the board, Zach, doing it for us every single week. Great job. The man on my left, he's been here with me for over a year now. Chris Roberts, El Presidente Chet 40 for all of us here at the First Round. We want to thank you. Hit that subscription button right now. Hit the notification button. YouTube will notify you about all of our shows that we post every single week. Also, I want to give a shout out to Bobby, Mike, out there at our new studios. They are building it. I was out there at the new studios this week. It is looking awesome, and Bobby is doing a great job. Thank you so much for that. We will be right back here next week talking about everything going on in the world of sports. Until then, take care of yourselves, everybody.